Hello, y'all. We're back to again talking about communication and marriage. Just kind of want to give you a segue into it. Communication in marriage is of utmost importance. Developing effective and productive communication skills amongst each other is vital to understanding each other, as interpretation is directly related to perception for each other. And I know that's a deep thing of what I've just said. That interpretation directly related to perception
Break that down in
for
a
each
simple
other.
term for him, David.
That basically how I interpret things is based on my perception of it. That's basically what we're saying. And so perception is everything. And I think one of the things that Ronnie and I have to continually tell couples that, because we hear either the woman or the man say, well, I didn't see it like that. I don't know what you're talking about. And so we have to tell them that it don't matter if you saw it. She did. That was her perception of it, and you got to deal with it. So, that's what we're talking about. And so we're gonna start out by talking about some things.
And of course, the scriptures say, learn how to stimulate one another through words and deeds. The conversation that you and I have been having lately is that whole stimulation from communication. Because I think that's one of the most powerful things, that when you got a couple that know how to stimulate each other through words, then the deeds are going to be great,
Correct.
And so the thing about communication is that this is what we run into all the time from couples, David, is this. Every time we bring them together to counsel with them, each perception is totally different.
Oh, definitely.
So what we're asking them to do is just respect each other's perception. That's what we asking them to do, is to respect each other's perception. Because we look at it based on what we see, our whole environment, what we thinking, all that plays into our communication. And so when I communicate to you, I may see something, and then you say, well, I didn't see it that way. Because, you and I have conversation all the time where we don't see the same thing and stuff. But to know how to bring that together as a couple, that each person can walk away at peace and have communicated their side and what it is that they want to see.
Absolutely. So I guess the first thing we're going to do is talk about the biblical principles of this whole communication in marriage. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the 4 types of human relationship communication, which comes out of Proverbs 27. Please turn there with us, because I believe that putting your eyes on this scripture is very important, instead of just listening to what we got to say. And then you'll know whether we're telling the truth or not.
That's true.
So we go to Proverbs 27. And the first scripture we want to look at is verse 5.
Better is open rebuke than love that's concealed. Man.
Isn't that something? Now, you've been taught that differently. You've been taught that, you just be quiet if you ain't got nothing good to say.
Hey.
I know you've heard that before. And I'm telling you that the scripture says that differently. That's why it's important as Christians that we take our eyes off of the way we learn things. Because not necessarily were they biblical. But biblically, what the Lord is telling us here is that we're to be open in telling people what we really feel about that. Now, there's a twist on that thing a little bit, that it should not have attitude in it.
Right.
It should have love.
We're going to get to that later.
It should have love. So if what we're talking about here is communicating openly and lovingly, is what he's saying. And when we've done that, he said that the open rebuke, in other words, if I got to tell my spouse something that it definitely will appear to be a rebuke, I need to do that lovingly. I need to have the right words. I've thought it through. I'm not just responding off my temple. All of that kind of stuff. That's what he's talking about. Open and loving.
And so the thing about it is that the scripture tells us in 2 Timothy that when we correct and reproof each other, we're going to be adequate to get good works done.
Absolutely.
And so that's why the open rebuke is better than love that's concealed.
Yes. Now let's talk about the love that's concealed. Let's talk about what God means when he says that, because we really have learned that wrong. That he says it's better than love that is concealed. In other words, I haven't told you I love you. It's better than that. Open rebuke is better than that. In other words, I mean, for me to tell you that I don't love you is better than me trying to hold it back to say I do love you. That's what God is saying. That's how deep this thing is.
Yeah, it's real. See, now, of course, people wouldn't say, I wouldn't want anybody rebuking me openly. I wouldn't, if they secretly love me, I'm cool with that.
I know.
But see, you don't understand the twist on that. Because see, the rebuke is for correction.
Absolutely.
See, it's to bring you out of that whole way that you in.
Exactly.
And see, because if you're not ever corrected, then you're not adequately equipped
I can't
to
say
do it.
I love them.
No, you can't get past that whole thing.
And
And
we
it
have to-
definitely can't be open.
Definitely. And we have to continually tell couples that that's what has to take place, because they so busy trying to, what they say, keep the peace.
Mhm,
And God is saying, ain't no keep no peace. We got to tell the truth in
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Well, you know, you hear that mostly from men talking about keeping the peace.
Exactly. So let's move on to verse 6.
Faithful is the wounds of a friend, but deceitful are the kisses of an enemy.
Isn't that something? That's certainly going against
Faithful.
what we've learned.
Faithful is the wounds of a friend.
Absolutely.
Now, what we talking about? We talking about open and unloving?
We're talking about open. No. In fact, we had it backwards just now. We were talking about open and unloving is when that happens to the reverse. Now we're talking about open and loving.
Open and
Is
loving.
that when my friend comes, and the Lord knew we was going to view that like they coming against us because
Right,
they got to
right,
tell us something we
right.
don't particularly care for. But He's telling you that the wounds of a friend is very important to our being, to who we are in our correction. And she said, and it says, but deceitful are the kisses of an enemy, meaning that, you know what, and I've seen this chronically in my life, even now. People that stand up with you, kiss you, and look at you and say how great you are. There's something wrong with that picture. It really is. It's only when a friend can be honest with you and tell you when you're wrong.
Now, you know, Proverbs chapter 17, verse 17 say a friend, a good friend,
Yes.
loves at all times.
Absolutely.
There's no variation in that. That means whatever it is that you're doing, your friend gonna be there. They gonna be when they got to tell you tough stuff.
Absolutely.
They gonna be there to love you right through that thing. So the thing about it is, it's better to have a faithful wound from a friend. I would rather have that than to have kisses from an enemy.
Exactly. So when we're talking about open and unloving, let me just give you some illustrations of what that looks like when we're open and unloving. We're just spewing out whatever comes to our minds on our spouse.
You know what people say? I just say it like it is.
You know, that's just how I am.
Yeah.
And God is saying you wrong.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
Yeah.
You are wrong
Yeah.
for that. You should not be doing that.
Yeah.
Open and unloving is not, it's just not, it shouldn't be done.
Now talk about open and loving.
Now, open and loving means that I'm telling you the truth in a loving manner. And not only am I telling you the truth, I'm nurturing you back to where you need to be. Because I know that I've had to tell a friend something real bad about them. And I realized it was going to crush them. I sit there and I nurtured them back to where they needed to be because it crushed them so bad they didn't know how to act. So I had to help them get there. So all I'm saying is that when you're open and loving, you're in the right way with the Lord. Now, there is something called closed and unloving, meaning that we ain't saying nothing at all, and we're hating folks.
And hating and talking bad to them.
I'm talking about literally.
Yeah. So our whole disposition is out of place.
Correct. Yeah. And those are things that God is saying no to. Don't do it. In fact, He tells us that in verse 4, it says, "Wrath is fierce and anger is a flood, but who can stand before jealousy?" I mean, literally, that you just it's just not, you're not gonna get anything out of not saying anything. We often have to tell couples that too. The guy say, "Well, I just didn't say nothing."
Yeah.
You know, I knew how she was gonna act, so I just didn't say nothing.
Yeah, but you're silently hating her though. See, and
her.
that's the thing. Now, what about closed and loving?
Closed and loving means this: that I'm not saying nothing, but I love you. Now, how can we do that? I know that sounds like
I don't know that though. I don't know that.
I know. But when we're closed and not saying nothing when we should be saying something, that's called closed and loving. And so join us next time, though, because we're running out of time right now. Join us next time when we'll be talking about the factors of effective communication.
The factors of effective communication. Hey, next time we're going to really get into something deep. Hey, man, but be with us here. May God bless you and keep you as our prayer. And remember, a life unexamined is not a life worth living.